This video discusses themes related to mental health and existential distress. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey there, we've talked a lot about Kiarostami on this channel. We've already covered the Koker Trilogy, but maybe this is our final step, Taste of Cherry. Now, it's not officially part of the Koker Trilogy, but it's definitely connected to it in a meaningful way. In my opinion, Kiarostami's cinema can't really be summed up by just one film, or even three. His movies, even though they were made at different times and influenced by different things, all come from the same worldview. They feel like branches of the same tree. So with that in mind, let's start talking about Taste of Cherry. Released in 1997, Taste of Cherry was probably Kiarostami's most successful film when it came to awards. It won Iran's first Palme d'Or and came out just 3 years after Through the Olive Trees. But in Iran, it got a very mixed reaction. A lot of people criticized the film, especially its ending. Some thought it was too depressing or just too nihilistic. But internationally, it was praised. In fact, in the 2022 Sight and Sound poll, the one where directors picked the best films of all time, it ranked number 93. So why the contradiction? You can't really judge Kiarostami's work based on just one movie. Let's go back to Where's the Friend's House, the first film in the Koker Trilogy. It's about a young boy who travels across hills and villages to return his friend's homework notebook. In that moment, in his small world, his entire goal is to get that notebook back to his friend. In the end, he doesn't succeed, but he finds another way. That night, while writing his own homework, the wind blows open the wooden door of their house. And it's like he realizes something. He needs to free himself from this imaginary set of rules he's stuck in. So he decides to copy his friend's homework into the notebook himself. The second film is Life and Nothing More, a title that really says it all. It follows a director and his son who travel through the ruins left by the Rudbar earthquake, searching for the actor who played Ahmad in Where's the Friend's House. But alongside all the destruction and loss caused by the earthquake, we see something else. People trying to move forward, trying to keep life going. The film isn't really about finding Ahmad, the actor. It's more about showing how close death and life can be. The third film is Through the Olive Trees. It takes place in the same Koker world, but this time Kiarostami reveals that the story of Life and Nothing More was itself a film being made. The narrative shifts to a love story between two of the local actors. A young man keeps pursuing the woman he loves, but she refuses to speak to him. Once again, the story centers on a character chasing after something, this time love. The man walks across hills and fields, searching for an answer. And just like before, the point of the film isn't whether or not he gets a response. It's the journey itself that matters. In all three films, Kiarostami refuses to give us the answer we're looking for. Where exactly was the friend's house? What happened to Ahmad, the actor, after the earthquake? Did the young man in Through the Olive Trees ever win the woman's heart? We never find out. Why? What matters is the path we take. The destination, whatever it is, isn't what shapes us. It's the journey that defines us. We become ourselves in the process of moving towards uncertain goals. In other words, it's life that gives us meaning, not death. And that idea becomes even more present in Taste of Cherry. Here we follow Mr. Badi, a driver who once again is looking for someone who the next morning will either bury his lifeless body or help him up if he changes his mind and wakes up. The film opens with a close-up of Mr. Badi behind the wheel. He's driving around, scanning the people around him, like he's searching for someone. At the same time, people on the street ask him, "Are you looking for a worker?" And Badi says no. Let's keep that detail in mind. Now let's jump ahead to his first passenger, a young soldier. Badi decides to take him on a drive so they can talk about a certain job. From their early conversation, we see Badi trying to build a connection. He tells the soldier that his own time in the army was the best part of his life. He's trying to relate, to find common ground with this young man. But when the soldier asks what exactly the job is, Badi dodges the question. He says, what matters is the money, not the nature of the work. As the driver continues and Badi still refuses to explain, the soldier grows more and more uncomfortable. He keeps looking out the window, clearly wanting to escape the situation. Eventually, the car stops. Paddy gets out and walks to a smaller pit near a tree, and that's when he finally tells the soldier what the job is. He wants him to come back the next morning at 6 a.m., stand by the pit, and call his name twice. If Paddy answers, it means he's still alive. If there's no answer, he wants the soldier to cover him with dirt and bury him. The soldier is immediately disturbed and refuses. Even as Paddy insists, even when he brings up the money, the soldier won't agree. He says he can't bring himself to throw dirt on a person. Paddy replies, if someone's truly a person, a real human, they won't let you bury him. Still, no matter how much Paddy pushes, the soldier won't go through with it. He eventually jumps out of the car and runs away. Now, this soldier isn't the kind of soldier we usually imagine, not even the one in Paddy's mind. He's young, scared, and inexperienced. Sure, he might carry a rifle, but he has no real understanding of death. Maybe that's exactly why Paddy doesn't get the response he was hoping for. He assumed a soldier would be mentally prepared to handle this kind of request, that someone who carries a weapon, a symbol of death, would find it easier to carry out a burial. But this young soldier is also a farmer. He's used to holding a shovel to plant life, not to cover the dead. What Paddy is asking goes completely against the world this young man lives in. And remember what Paddy said, that if the person in the grave was really human, they wouldn't allow themselves to be buried. That's a powerful statement and one worth unpacking. Paddy is implying that a dead human is no longer human. But at the same time, burial, the act of choosing to be laid to rest in the ground, is deeply human. It's a decision, and for Paddy it holds meaning. To be buried is to return to the earth, to become part of the soil we originally came from. It's a return to nature, the very source of human life. After the soldier runs off, Paddy gets back in his car and starts driving again, taking that winding road all over again. In Taste of Cherry, the pit, the grave, is literally the lowest point in the film. The pit, or death, is framed as the lowest chapter in a person's life. And throughout our lives, we're always somewhere between the descent toward death and the climb toward life. The road Paddy travels mirrors this. It's full of twists, turns, ascents, and drops, just like life itself. And in this story, Paddy is both the driver and the passenger of his own journey between life and death. The farther he gets from the pit, the more signs of life we see, more trees, the sound of birds. Nature becomes more present. On the way back, Paddy encounters soldiers, farmers with shovels, and shepherds. At one point, his car veers off the road, and it's the farmers, the one holding shovels, who rush over and help get their car back on track. These farmers represent life. They bring with them energy, purpose, and movement, and they help guide Paddy's vehicle, his journey back toward life. The next passenger in Paddy's car is an Afghan seminary student, someone who moved to Iran because of the war in Afghanistan and his passion for studying. After a brief introduction, Paddy tells him the truth. He wants to end his life. He tells the student that he needs his help. But, as expected, the student falls back on religious teachings. He responds to the moral and spiritual arguments against suicide. The problem is, Paddy is in deep pain. He's not asking whether suicide is right or wrong, or whether it's sin. From his perspective, continuing to live only prolongs suffering, both for himself and for others. And if God truly opposes pain and suffering, then maybe Paddy suggests suicide isn't really a sin after all. He even takes the student to the side of the pit to explain exactly what he's asking for. But still, the student refuses. Paddy doesn't come off as someone without faith, but just because something is a sin in the eyes of God, that alone isn't enough to stop him. After the student gets out of the car, Paddy drives to a construction site where heavy trucks are digging and dumping dirt. It's a strange and almost surreal sequence. Why? Because we see Batty silently staring at the dirt, just watching. And here's where Kiarostami's subtle brilliance shows up. We see Batty's shadow, and even his reflection in the soil. Earth here is both the source of life and the place we all return to. And Batty, body and soul, seems ready to join it. Worn down by life, he sits down and closes his eyes, almost as if he is ready to be buried right there under the falling soil. But then a worker stabs him out of it. He tells Batty to get in his car and leave the area. Now we arrive at the final passenger, an old man who, at first, doesn't seem to reject Batty's request outright. This old man represents experience. He listens to Batty's problem and tells him that every problem has a solution. And then we get to one of the most poetic moments in the film. While they're driving, the old man asks Batty to take a left turn. Batty hesitates and says he doesn't know that road. The old man replies, "It's a longer road, but it's more beautiful." You could say this entire film, maybe even Kiarostami's whole philosophy, is captured in that one moment, in that single line of dialogue. There isn't just one path in life, just like there isn't only one solution to a problem. Sure, every life ends in death, but the paths we take to get there are different. Some are harder, some are more beautiful, some are long, some are short. We all choose different ways to live, and we all face our problems in our own ways. But it's not death that gives life meaning. It's the journey, the paths we take, that shape what life means to each of us. And there's a similar moment in Where's the Friend's House. After struggling so much to return his friend's notebook, the boy comes home unsuccessful. But as he's doing his own homework, the wind blows open the door. It's then that he realizes there was another solution all along. He can just copy his friend's homework into the notebook himself. That's why at the beginning of this video, I said Taste of Cherry is deeply connected to the Koker Trilogy. The connection isn't just in style, it's in the core philosophy. Now, let's get back to Taste of Cherry itself. We get to hear the old man's well-known story. One morning, worn out by everything, he decides to take his own life using a rope. He went out and found a cherry tree to hang himself from. But as he was tying the rope, he got distracted by the sweetness of the cherries. He started eating them and completely forgot about killing himself. He had left home to end his life and came back with some cherries instead. The cherries symbolize the simple joys and pleasures that exist in this world. The taste of one sweet cherry can take the bitterness out of life. Just like in Life and Nothing More, even though the homes were destroyed and people were displaced after the earthquake, one small World Cup match brought laughter and happiness back to their faces. The old man keeps urging Batty to change his perspective. If life doesn't seem joyful, maybe it's not life that needs to change. Maybe it's the way we see it. The taste of a single cherry changed his view. The film doesn't deny that death or pain exist, but it shifts the focus to life and to living. After this conversation, Batty's surroundings start to change. Once again, we're surrounded by green and yellow trees. We hear the birds chirping. Life fills the frame. Before getting out of the car, the old man tells Batty, "Whether you go or stay, I'm your friend. I'll be there tomorrow morning by the pit. I'll call your name and you'll answer me." Batty keeps driving. At one point, he takes a photo of a young couple. Then suddenly, he changes his mind and turns the car around to go back to the old man. It's interesting that for the first time in the film, we suddenly see a lot of women. It's like his world has taken a different shape, especially since, symbolically, women often represent life and fertility. Then he walks into the museum where the old man works. He asks the guard for directions and finds out that man's name. That's when we also learn what his job is. He's a taxidermist. But why did Batty go back to see him? Just to tell him, if you come tomorrow morning, throw 2 small stones at me, shake my shoulder, I might just be asleep. I think this is Kiarostami's way of subtly letting the audience know how the film will end, without actually showing it. We see Batty watching kids playing in a field. He sits on a bench and stares at the sunset. And at the very end of the film, we see him through the window, picking up his coat and getting into his car. He drives to the pit, he lights a cigarette, lies down in the hole, and looks up at the full moon. Kiarostami never tells us whether Badi actually goes through with it. We never find out why he even wanted to in the first place. But the movie doesn't end there. We suddenly cut to a scene that clearly isn't part of the same cinematic world. It looks like handheld, more like behind-the-scenes footage. We see soldiers sitting on the same hills from earlier in the film. But this time, the hills are green, life has returned to them. We even see flowers in the soldiers' hands. Throughout the film, we see Badi trapped in what feels like his own coffin. A car that carries different passengers until finally it ends with Mr. Bagheri. Mr. Bagheri is the one Badi was truly looking for. Not just someone who would help him for money, but someone he could talk to. Someone who could challenge his decision, give him a reason to live. First, he picks the soldier. Maybe because he reminded him of his own youth, his best years. Then he tries the seminarian. But it's Mr. Bagheri who becomes the final passenger. Someone who's actually been through a similar experience. Someone who's tasted the sweetness of cherries. And after meeting Mr. Bagheri, Badi finally steps out of his coffin. That's when we'll reach one of the most important visual metaphors in the film, the glass. It represents the boundary between Badi's isolation and his potential to re-engage with the world. Even when he returns to the museum to find Mr. Bagheri again, he taps on the glass to call him over. And by the end of the film, it's Badi himself who chooses to cross that boundary, the line between life and death. Glass is transparent but solid. You can see through it, but you still feel its presence. It separates two states of being, but those two states constantly influence each other. It's the idea of life and death being closely intertwined, something Kiarostami also explores in Life and Nothing More. Even the ditch that Badi wants to be buried in, a symbol of death, is right next to a tree, a symbol of life. The soil, once again, represents both death and rebirth. The setting sun signals the end of a day, but it also leads to the rise of the moon. The world is full of both life and death. But as long as life is still here, we should taste the cherries, play ball like a kid, and stare at the glowing sun. On the same hill where Badi's car rides today, grass will grow tomorrow. These hills of life were once the path Ahmad took to find his friend, once the path a director walked to find his actor, once the path a lover took to chase after their beloved. The paths are different, but in the end, life goes on, even in the presence of death. If this video gave you something to think about, consider leaving a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're into films that make you reflect like this one does, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.